Well, good morning. I tried a video earlier, and there seems to be some little Wi-Fi blip here and there. So if we get this thing going, we'll do well with it. If we don't, we'll try it again later. Anyway, I'll try to cover 2 or 3 different things here. My hummingbird, and I want to tear this up. My hummingbird came out of the kiln pretty good. I like that. It looks pretty nice. I had to paint the flowers twice to get this color. Went on one time, it was too pale, went back again, and so it's come out pretty nice. So that'll look real nice with the colored glass around it, which I'll probably take off on later today. Right now we're going to start up this lid, and then I'll back off the lid and get these 2 pieces done. Here's the other one going to the same place down in Oklahoma. Anyway, there's our dragonfly, and that'll look real good when I get the colored glass around it. So let's put those to the side so we don't drop anything on them or break them. And let's see what's next. We'll talk about this. All right, we've got this lined up, ready to go, and we do have the zinc cut in here at a 45. I like to do the 45. Some people butt joint those things together, and that leaves a hole in either the bottom because of the nature of the, here you go. You're going to see that hole either on this end or on this end. Now, if you're going to build it in, it wouldn't make so much difference, but I don't know if I prefer to do A+ work. So 45 that thing, and when you 45 it, then you get something similar to the edge of this and right across there. Okay, now I squared this thing up, and let me pull this out of here. I took a lot of measurements across here. Everything's great. I come back and I get ready to make a decision on how we're going to cut up this glass over here. This glass here and here and here is going to be a seedy glass. You can see it laying right there. See the little, what we call seeds in it. I'll put it up in the light so you can see it better in just a minute. And anyway, when I start looking across there, I get 94 millimeters. And down here, I'm getting 93. And I'm thinking, man, that's I don't like that. That's a millimeter off. Well, what's going on? So I pull this back out, take my measurements again, and my measurements are square. All right, so now you start to suspect the zinc, and as hard as anybody would believe. And that zinc, from one end of that zinc, and they just manufacture this stuff in a machine, just rolls it out one right after another. They cut them off at 6-foot lengths. That zinc is a 1 millimeter different from the top up here. It's 12 millimeters wide down there and 11 millimeters wide right here. Well, nobody's going to ever see that, but if you're looking for real dead-on accuracy, that'll screw you up because it's a different width of glass that's going to fit in here than fits up there. So here we go back to my original statements. If you're going to take this window, which most everybody does, I would say 98% of all the people doing glasswork, they're going to cut all these pieces out first, and then they're going to jump in here and try to fit it. Well, then all of a sudden, their lines are out. Well, how could that be when they profess to cutting it so accurately? Well, in this case, the zinc's off. Now, nobody would ever come back and think, man, my zinc is a little different from one end to the other. How am I going to fix that? Well, you're not going to worry about fixing it. What you're going to do is alter the pieces of glass here to correspond to the cartoon, which you have checked out repeatedly, and you know that cartoon is right. So we don't care what the zinc's doing. Now, it's going to create a little bit of inconvenience, but nothing we can't live with. So I decided I've got 94 on one end and 93 on the other. I'm just going to cut them both 94, and then I'll come back, grind 1 millimeter off. It's that one down there. Grind 1 millimeter off and make those 2 fit. So we're trying to think ahead here a little bit. There's 4 of these, and they're a little less than 4 inches. And I have a sheet here that's been cut on before. I looked, evidently I needed a little small section, so I cut that out. And I'm trying to look at this sheet and figure out what is the best use of this partial sheet. I've got a bunch more of this stuff, but it's no sense throwing it away, right? You want to try to cut it with some forethought. And so these pieces here are 12 inches, actually 12 and an eighth. So I know I need a couple of those there and a couple over here. I'm not too worried about over here yet. So I thought, well, I don't want to start whacking up this sheet till I figure out where I'm going here. So I felt here I've got all kinds of room to get the 12. And I think, and I don't remember right now, there may be enough room to get two. There may not be enough room to get the length of this one and the length of this one. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. However, I know I can get all four of my side pieces right out of this section right here. So I'm on this is kind of a rubber mat type stuff. I don't know where you get it. Somebody gave me this, but this is that stuff that's in the trunk of a car. You know, they line the new car, they line the trunk with this rubber stuff, and you buy it in rolls. And I found a good use for it just to set it on this table. And I also have, this is that rubbery stuff. You can get this at Walmart. It's shelf liner. They sell it by the roll. It doesn't cost much. All right, and I use that to cut a lot of glass on. Here's another piece of glass right here. And I would cut this glass on top of this, but I have this white line painted under here so I can see my cut mark. And there's my cut mark. And so I'm going to mount this camera in just a minute and cut this for you and explain that. Let's see. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, yeah, I'm getting backwards here. I don't want to do anything stupid and shut this thing off because it's working. Okay. All right, let's raise this up and so you and I want to make sure that you can see me all along here. My friend Michael Rively, I never say his name right. He's a master lead guy, and he has a camera crew that comes in and does his videos. Of course, he's online with a whole program of this stuff. Let's see him out here. Let me turn this just a little bit more. Where you can see what I'm doing. And making sure you can see right there. Okay. And man, and boy, what'd that be? I would like to get in some studio somewhere, and they would just have camera here, camera there, and man, I could cover some ground with that. Okay, we're going with this silver schnit, and this has the potential. And this is generally not hard glass to cut, but I have a lot of people that follow me having all kinds of trouble cutting glass, stripping it off, and if we were to have trouble with this piece of glass here, and what trouble would be the score. We put the score on, and then the fracture goes shh, and we don't get this off. If that happens, what has happened here, it's not the glass. People blame it all on the glass. It's not the glass, it's me, and what that means is that, and I wish I could tell you where to get one of these. This thing must be 40 years old. It's heavy, and it's made out of aluminum. It must weigh about 2.5 pounds. And Fletcher made it 100 years ago. You can't find one of these. I had a friend of mine wanted one of these. And I'll tell you something else. You need to make sure that rubber thing. Oop, I'm over here. I put a little Windex on there just to wipe this off. Make sure it's nice and clean, because you don't want it moving around. Anyway, I wish I had a substitute for this, or I could tell you what to get, because this is a lifesaver for stripping off stuff about like we're just about to do. All right, so anyway, I don't have a source for that. So what we're going to do, I've got a little black mark because I can see it through this white paint with that little Papermate flare. All right, and I got another one down on this other end. I'm going to keep checking this camera and make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah. Okay. And so you need to know where this wheel is, right? Okay, so I'm looking down this bar, and I've got, and boy, we need to be on the money here. This thing's 94 millimeters wide. And we want to go right down through the center of my little black mark and come down here. Let's move this one and get it right. And we want super accuracy. Okay. Let's see, we're off here because we had to move down there. Okay, now let's come back and check this. I think I'm going to just move it ever so slightly. Just a tiny bit more. Ooh, right there. Okay, now we're going to run this glass cutter down here. Mistake you can make, and I'm going to give you all the mistakes I've made. The mistake you can make is that you're leaning a little bit this direction, dragging the glass cutter down the side of this bar, and what that's doing for you, that's changing the amount of downward pressure that you're putting on this piece of glass. And that's the key to getting this thing cut and getting it to fracture off. Consistent, appropriate pressure for this particular piece of glass. I've got videos, I don't know, in my pile of videos somewhere, that show me stripping off long strips of Yakagani. That's much more difficult than this. And I'm stripping off little 30, 35 millimeter width sections there. And I go this more or less the same way, but you really got to pay attention to your pressure and the consistency of that pressure. So if we were to come across here, and for some reason or another we varied the amount of pressure down on this piece of glass, and then we start trying to break it out, when I'm going to pull, I'll move the camera, but I'm going to pull this to the edge of the table and pop it like that. If I ended up with a piece of glass going that way, not the fault of the glass, it's me, because at that point where this thing veers off and goes this way, the pressure was inconsistent. And what happens is that the fracture is running along that score, and it comes to a place where it wants to keep going, but it's lost. It can't find the score mark because you varied the pressure, the downward pressure, at that point. Now the fracture's running to here, and it goes, where's the score? I'm lost. And what it will do, it'll just take off and go that way, hopefully. Or, and I've seen this happen, it go this way. If it goes this way, you just have got a sheet of glass here that's now not nearly the size it was to start with. Of course, ultimately we generally find a use for all these pieces, but that's not how you want to do this. So what I'm thinking about here right now, in my mind, is that I want to cock this glass cutter up, and I want to get it running straight up and down, not this way, not that way. And I want that pressure consistent coming across here so that I get a good score mark. I don't want to, lay over on the edge of this thing. So I'm going to go right here to the edge of the glass, cock it up. Stop before I get to the end. Lift this. And now let me see if you can see the end of this table. Yeah. Okay. Whoa, look out. Can I pull this rubber mat right to the edge of the table? And if we did this right, this thing will come. See, I got that score mark laying here, just like that. Okay. Now that wasn't I don't want this to sound like I'm some kind of magician in this. Anybody that can cut glass or has been cutting glass very long just makes that look easy, and it is if you've got the pressure consistent, and your methods here are all in alignment. So there's what we want. All right, and now let's turn around here, and we'll just go down here. I'll probably just cut. I don't know. I don't know how well you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put you right over me here. Whoa, man. Now, the next question somebody's going to have, and let me cut a section of this off here. I have my lead. We got enough small lead out here. I've got some lead already stretched up, ready to go. That's 3/16. Now, we're not going to lead this thing in yet, although we could do across there. Somebody's going to say, well, you need lead shears because you need to compensate. Pull that out. Oh, we'll get this figured out in a second. You need to compensate for the heart of that lead, and that's that long piece in the center. This is the face, and that center is the heart. And this is what's called a rounded crown, because this stuff will go around a curved piece of glass. Look at that. Here we go. See a little debris under here. Get that off there. Okay, we'll make this work. I'll show you how we're going to do this. Okay. Now what's going to happen to our stained glass window here is that all of our pieces are going to fit because we're cutting them one at a time. So, here. Now, here's where, now I can grind off just a touch of this right here, and that'll compensate for that very narrow heart. I'm not too worried about that, as small as that is. You could do that. You can. I probably will. Just grind just a touch off of that. That'll compensate for that heart. Now, let me get you right above me. Get you down in here. Man, there's not much. It's more fun than a real lead glass window. Okay, we've got that piece of glass setting in there where we want it. And here's where you can compensate for the heart of that lead if that's what you want to do. And so by doing that, you can come right to that line and just scoosh in just a hair. See if I've done too much. It's not straight. I'll tell you what we can do. That ought to do it right there. That's a slight compensation for that. I would have put this. Oh, I can do it right here. Okay, never mind. Let's just take that back off. Now I got the straight edge, and I'm looking. Now I don't know whether you can see this or not. Let me get you can get above me here. I'm looking straight down that piece of glass. And here's where I can compensate for the heart of that lead. I can back this thing wherever I want it. All right. I like that. There you go. And we can do the same thing right here. We'll compensate for the heart of that lead. Okay. Ooh, I nearly rubbed that off. Okay, this is a little more difficult for me, so let me raise this up. Not necessarily to cut, but to do it with where you can see what I'm doing. Can you see? I want to make sure you can see everything I'm doing here. Okay. Well, let's see. What's the least amount of glass we're going to waste here? Actually, if we came across here, we'd end up with that as waste. If we came across here, we'd end up with this as waste. So that's a lot bigger piece of waste. So that means I want to extend this line because I'd like to make this straight. I might need this for something else. Okay. Can everybody see me? Yep. Okay, I'm just riding right down that line. Riding down the line. Okay, now we're going to come right here, and we're only going to go to there. Right? Just ride right down that line. Just stop right there. Okay, we probably could just go... Which way did we go here? We probably could just whack it this way. Well, let's do that. All right, and then... Okay. Now, we haven't touched it with a grinder yet. Oh, boy. All right. I'm getting some stuff out of the way so I can get you down in the groove here. There's our first piece. And the beauty of that thing is that it's going to fit. And I don't have the water in my grinder. And if you'll look, we're just inside that black line. So that's going to compensate for this heart of this lead. Now here's the beauty of the one at a time. If I've took a little too much glass here, which I don't think I did, but if I took a little too much, and that lead's going to go right in there like that. When I get ready to put this piece in, and say, if you had cut all this in advance, and you got a fit that was that good, then when you came in here, because you had cut this in advance, and you pushed it in, oh no, guess what? You might be a little bit short right here. Well, then what you're going to do, what most people are going to do, is try to get that hidden underneath the edge of the lead. Well, good luck, because there's only 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters of space underneath this lead. Now, if it so happens that you were a little bit long on this piece, then you just grind it off. The cutting all these in advance will work for you if all your pieces are oversized and you need to cut back to make them fit. Now, obviously, if they all fit, that'd be great. There's some guy on, my hat's off to this guy. There's some guy that's cutting glass on YouTube, or one of them. Man, this guy's just drops, man. I don't know, man. I mean, I've been cutting glass a long time, but I'm not accurate enough to cut all my pieces and just throw them in. And sometimes I wonder if he doesn't edit out. He jumps out and grinds up some stuff, because this guy is a wizard, man. It's like artificial intelligence. I don't even have regular intelligence, and much less artificial intelligence, so I'm not going to be able to do what he's doing. So I've got to compensate for my inability this way. So now when I am, and bear in mind, this is 36 millimeter glass here, so I'll cut this one, and we had to have this one set in order to get these in. So what'll happen is we'll lead this up, and we'll put these in, including this one. And then we'll come down here and we'll set these in and set that one. All right, now I'll have basically a trough here, and all that'll happen then is we'll start working this diamond here. We'll start building it, and that's going to allow us to basically build that whole diamond right here. And then this other piece of glass will just slide right in. And because we're doing the one at a time method, I'm going to make everything cut to fit. So, what do you want to do? I'll tell you what, I'll just stay with you here for a few more minutes. All right. I think I'm trying to decide how we want to do this. It's not that I'm in a quandary over how to do this. I'm looking at this sheet thinking about how is the best way to utilize the largest amount of this glass. So I'm probably going to need to think about that for a while. And I don't want to tie you up with my thoughts on that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm just thinking out loud here how I want to. See, these are only 12 1/8 inches, and I've got a sheet that's about 20 inches. So I don't want to make that whole side of that sheet. Every one of these I cut, I've got 8 inches of waste. So I want to try to figure out a way to get as much of this glass as possible out of that sheet, and I don't have that figured out. I may do away with that particular sheet that we cut this off of and go with a full sheet that would allow me to get both of these. So I'd cut this width. I can't even see what I'm doing. I would cut this width first and then that width, and that'd allow me to get 2 of these and 2 of these. Then I probably wouldn't cut this in advance yet, because we're cutting to fit, and we want to make sure that everything fits perfectly as we move along. But it'd be nice if I had this one. We just run that lead right up here and set this one, and then set this one, and that, by setting these two on both ends, that allows us to do this diamond. The diamond's going to be the most difficult part, because we've got to get all those pieces cut, and they have to fit this cartoon exactly, because everything is so dependent on how they're placed and how these lines come out of that diamond. So this has got to be done right, and then that diamond has to fit. So by cutting these pieces one at a time and making it all conform to this space is going to mean that this is geometric window is going to, be good looking. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I have debated on and off and on and off. This window is going to lay in this cavity horizontally like this. And I thought and thought and thought about which direction I wanted these seeds to run. And I just, because the window is kind of long, slender looking in this respect, but it's laying vertically, I've tossed around the idea of having the seeds run up and down. And I thought, that doesn't fit the contour or the shape of the window. So I decided to run the seeds, these little seeds here, along the horizontal path that the window's built in. I think that's the best idea. So anyway, that's where we are. I'll figure this out. If I had a big piece of, I've got the glass, but I don't have it out. We'd go ahead and do this. When I figure out that glass, I'll just cut it, and then we'll come back. I don't think it'll be, I need to get on these dragonfly hummingbird pieces and get them done before I give it. I just wanted to start this and get a place to go with it. And so there we are. Oh, there's somebody's going to ask me. Let's get us a little piece of. I'm looking for something here. Lead dikes, and we just cut a. Where is it? There we just cut a little piece off there, and we're going to set that there. My friend in California, D. Carter Ray, gave me these glazer's nails from the UK. Boy, I've got a whole box of horseshoe nails over here, which is what I used for about 46 years. But these glazer's nails are round all the way around and have this cool head on it. And here we go. I'm looking for my little hammer. And so, there you go. So I'm happy you were able to see that the worry that people have because I don't have, it's not that I don't use pattern shears, is they're thinking I'm not going to get this thing to fit right because of that. I'm not compensating for that heart. And I am compensating for the heart. And I also do this on all my copper foil work. I just cut inside the line, kind of move around and get it the way you want to do it with your pattern. So here we are compensating for that heart in that we cut inside that line, which is going to make this thing fit. Okay. Well, I'll bail out here and let me get this thing. I'll bail off here, and what we'll do is I'll get some of this glass cut. Geez, I'd like to just keep going, but maybe I will. I'll get some of this glass cut out. You saw how I did it. I'm going to do it all the same. I'm just trying to figure out the best use of the sheet here. And then I won't lead anything in until I come back with a video about how I'm leading it. But I was happy to see you able to follow this thing. Okay, well, I'll be back when we decide to start leading this thing. I'm kind of torn. I got about 4 directions to go here, and I just don't know what I should be doing. I'd like to keep going on this, but I got to get over on the hummingbird, dragonfly, start to get them done. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. If you have any questions, always just ask.